So why am I winding Strat pickups? Well, I've always loved the sound of Mark Knopfler's guitar as used on Tunnel of Love in the early to mid 80s. So the thing with those pickups is they're not quite like these, which are standard Strat style vintage pickups. 0.187 slugs. That one's got shielding on it, which is handy. Those are from StewMac, very good value. This next one came from the Fender Custom Shop. It's quite old though, slightly different wire, otherwise pretty standard vintage. But the bobbins I purchased from Tonecraft have the larger 1/4 inch magnets that you would find on those old Schecters from the 80s. And I'm using 43 gauge wire, which is ever so slightly smaller than the 42 gauge wire you would typically find on a Strat pickup. As you can see, the bobbins are very well made. I'm going to measure them. I need to know essentially the space inside the pickups. And there's a very cool pickup coil estimator that you can plug in the measurements, and it will give you the amount of windings you can fit inside there, which will ultimately give you some of the electrical characteristics of the pickup. So here's my prototype winding machine with its fancy graphics. There's the sensor that counts how much the bobbin rotates. There's the little controller and the thing that drives the motor. So it's essentially counting revolutions. There's a magnet stuck to the back of the rotor, and it just flies past the sensor. So here I'm just putting some tape on the magnets inside. It helps stop with corrosion when things get humid, which they can do in the summers in Chicago. That's just simple paper tape. So now I start off by taking the start of the coil of wire and carefully thread it through the holes on the side of the flatwork there. Probably sort of wind it around 3 or 4 times just to give it somewhere to start. Try and use non-metallic tweezers to help stop breakages. I like to use that's actually a vise for cutting guitar nuts, but it's got very narrow jaws, very helpful. So now I'm going to heat up that eyelet that I've wound the wire around and just heat it up until the enamel sort of burns off the wire, and then now I've fixed it to the eyelet. Now I'm getting a piece of double-sided tape. This is Gorilla tape. It's slightly squishy, so there's a bit of give to it. Works very well for this. So you just have to kind of make sure it's stuck all the way, and then tweezers just to get the other side of the backing off. Without desperately trying to not break the wire. So you're trying to get it as central as possible using those handy Sharpie lines that I scored on there while it was rotating. So now I'm doing some winding by hand so I can find the left and right extents, and using what amounts to like a drill depth guide. You can see I'm moving that there. So I place those, not as a kind of hard limit, but it's just a guide really. Fix them there with the grub screw. And you'll see in a second, I'm now checking that right hand side. Seems good. Now you can see how those get used during the winding. And I'm literally, my thumb is right out of the picture there and I'm guiding it left and right. You just see the counter reaching 4,000 there, so I'm kind of halfway. This was not edited, this is time travel. So I'm stopping it, just checking, looking for an even wind, make sure everything's cool, then I'll just start it up again. So it's done. Now I want to pop them, put them in the wax. You can see they're actually cold, so the wax hardens against it quite quickly, but then over about 30 seconds all that sort of white solid wax will melt again. All the bubbles have stopped coming out, so it's essentially done. There you go, you put them on some towel, wipe them down, let them cool off. They look pretty good.